G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Trewin. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm interviewing Jean Ginzburg from Gipht, based in Santa Fe, New Mexico in the US. Thanks for your time today, Jean.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. Very excited. We're kind of based all over. I guess I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, but company is all over the US. Actually, we even have merchants who are in New Zealand, so I can talk a little bit more about that. But yeah, very, very excited to be here.
And the spelling for the audience of your business is Gipht, which will obviously link through to the website in the show notes. But really looking forward to hearing about your business, because when I read it, it sounded really interesting what you guys do. So let's start with how we know each other. Alexis on your PR team put us in touch.
Yeah, we've been working with them for a little bit and just doing some articles and now with this podcast. So yeah, it's been going well.
Tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
Absolutely. So this kind of came out of the pandemic. One of my businesses and still around is a digital marketing agency that I've had now for almost 12 years. At that point, it was about, I guess about 8 years or so. And before the pandemic, it was very easy to send corporate gifts, and we would send corporate gifts, client gifts, partner gifts, or whatnot, to offices for the most part before the pandemic. Of course, we all know what happened in 2020. The world shut down, and we all started working out of our homes. And so my thought was like, okay, how do you continue having that client relationship or, client retention strategies when everyone is working remotely, and gifting is no longer really that possible when when some people are at home. And so I came up with the idea of Gipht in 2021, I guess. Yeah, it must almost about 3 years now. And the idea really is that with our technology, we work with merchant partners, gifting merchant partners, and our technology allows senders, it could be anybody on your team, usually someone in sales or in marketing or in human resources or even administration, if they're sending out, let's say, holiday gifts. It allows senders to send physical gifts with just an email address or phone number without the need for a physical address. So kind of bypasses the whole need to know the physical address. There's still a physical address involved, and I can share more of that. But the sender just needs a phone number or an email address in order to start this whole process with sending a gift.
Then how do you find the address out of interest if you've just got a phone number or email?
Yeah, it's actually, everybody thinks that there's some sort of database where you have to find an address. It's all user generated. So if I'm going to send you a gift, I know your email address. You would just receive a notification in your email. It says, Jean, send you a gift. You'll see what it looks like, all of that. And then there's a button to accept the gift. Once you accept it, it just goes to a page where you can input your shipping address, any shipping address you want. And so there's no database I'm not looking anything up, or that's not how the system is set up. It's just literally wherever you want this thing to be shipped. That information then goes to the merchant who is fulfilling and shipping that gift like any other order. And that's pretty much how it works.
And what's the business model? How do you charge? How do you earn?
Yes. So it's a Shopify app. So we work with Shopify merchants on the, again, I guess on the back end. And that app is free for merchants. And then we charge senders for using our technology. We kind of think of it as a convenience fee. So go through the regular checkout process, as you would, and have a shipping address, and absolutely free for just the regular checkout process. But then if you want to use our technology, then we charge a small convenience fee for senders, and it's free for recipients.
Oh, great. And how did you start out?
So like I said, I started off from the marketing agency because I wanted to have the opportunity to send physical gifts for our marketing agency with just email or SMS. And I'm like, I'm sure there's probably hundreds of professional services companies like marketing agencies or law firms or wealth management firms who probably have a need for something like that, or IT firms who send out holiday gifts, for example, for their clients. And so I came up with the idea, like I said, in 2021. And then around that time, I hired a fractional CTO to help me architect the product. I come from a marketing background, digital marketing, so I'm not really good on the technology side of things. I understand technology, but can't build it. So I hired a CTO, and we worked together on really kind of understanding how would this work, what kind of platform. We did a lot of research. We ended up going with Shopify because there are, I don't know, 1.5 million merchants on Shopify, and we kind of did the math, and it's like how many would be gifting merchants out of those 1.5 million. So we ended up going with Shopify as our first e-commerce platform, but there's other e-commerce platforms that we're thinking of also integrating with. So that's how we got started. And then about 6 months later, we hired our first developer to create and build out the product. It took about another 6 months or so to build the product. So about a year, a little over a year after I got the idea and hired our CTO, we actually rolled it out in alpha as a Shopify app. So that was December of 2022.
And maybe touch a little bit on your marketing agency. Take us back to when you started that. How was it just on your own, and how many team members did you get that up to?
Yeah, so like I said, I come from a digital marketing background. I've been doing it for 20 years, and about 12 years ago or so, I was like, yeah, I was working for a marketing agency, and I was like, I think I can do this on my own. Famous last words. And so I left that marketing agency in 2013 and just started my own just put up a shingle and started my own shop. At that point, it was a consultancy. It was just me for the first few years, and I was doing pretty much, I mean, everything, right? Like one person show. I was doing the sales, I was doing the account management, I was setting up the campaigns, I was doing the accounting. So I learned a lot because I had to do everything. But then probably, I would say a few years into it, so I started in 2013, probably 2016 is when I first hired my first virtual assistant. And I was like, if I'm going to expand this thing, I don't think I can do everything myself. And so I decided to uh, start hiring, and then more clients came on board, and so I had to expand the team, and now we're at about 20 full-time team members at the agency, and so that's been growing a lot over the last several years. And but you know all about that business, right? You come from the website
Yep.
space, and so I'm sure know a lot about the digital marketing side too.
Now, you started Gift up 3 years ago in 2021. How old were you then when you started that business?
How old was I? I was 41 years old back
Yeah.
then.
And do you have any key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of the Gift business?
Sure. So we have about 90 merchants who are on our platform now. So like I said, we primarily partner with Shopify gifting merchants as our as basically who are providing and we're really careful about who we're selecting because we really want our merchants to, well, first be reliable. There's a lot of Shopify merchants out there, but also just have really amazing artisanal and local products that we would be proud of on putting on our platform. So we definitely have those. And then we have had about 700 businesses use Gift as their gifting platform. So, and we've had some really large corporations, enterprise companies like Google and Nationwide Insurance and Discount Tire. And I mean, these are all probably US based companies that maybe not everybody is familiar with, but a lot of corporations and enterprises who have used our technology to send physical gifts with just email or SMS.
And what about number of full-time equivalent team members on this business that you started with, and where are you at now?
So it was just me, and then we hired a fractional CTO. Right now, I think we're at about 3 full-time equivalents. So we have a number of fractional or contract people who are on the team. We have about 7. So I guess if we were to combine everybody together, it'd probably be the equivalent of about 3 full-time team members.
Yeah, great. When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
Well, I don't think I've, I think there's a lot of milestones to getting to success. I don't think I've succeeded yet. I mean, it's definitely still in startup mode. But I think I kind of felt one big milestone was, in terms of success, was that when we first started developing this product, I didn't even know if it was like technically possible to integrate with Shopify and to create the Shopify app. And so there were a lot of hurdles that we had to jump through based on just APIs and the backend technology and how it integrates with Shopify and what's possible. Because, like, as you know, with every single system, when you're integrating, there's always like, it won't let you do this, it won't let you do that, right? So you have to be very strategic about how do you build this product out so that it actually still works with the Shopify platform or whatever platform you're building it on. So I think for me, the first kind of iteration of success is that when it started working, like you're like, wow, this thing actually works. I can actually put in an email address. It will get there. They will accept the gift. This will go to the merchant, and they will ship that gift like to the recipient. So I think that was definitely a first point of success for me, where I'm like, wow, Frankenstein is actually moving. It's like it's alive. So that was pretty exciting.
And what does success look like to you?
I think for me, I success looks like the knowing that there's a lot of people out there or corporations out there who are using and are happy with our technology and our brand. So I think for me, that will probably be the point of what I would be be the equivalent of success for me, or what I think will be the milestone of success, because I built this platform because I thought, I think there's a lot of opportunity and there's a lot of businesses who would want to use a technology like this. So I think for me, just getting a bunch of, a lot of brands who believe in what we do and understand what we're doing and to see the value of what we're doing. I think that would be success for me.
Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
So the number one thing, and that is, I think for applicable for every business, is knowing your customer and understanding. And I know that's probably not what people think when they think of marketing, but actually that is the number one thing, as coming from the marketing agency side. If I were to put my hat there, is most businesses or a lot of businesses don't always understand their client. And so that is usually what prevents businesses in growing, is because they're not responding to the pain points that their customers have. And so when I started Gipht, I had to learn about my customers, and I had to understand, okay, from the merchant side, like what are their pain points and why would they want to install this app on their Shopify store? From the corporate gifting side, from the business side, like why do businesses want or need, and what is the unique value proposition to them? So I really had to learn about those both sides of that coin, and then understand what are their pain points so that we can address that message, create that messaging to address those pain points, and say, well, the reason why you would want to use Gipht is because you probably don't have all of your clients' home addresses or business addresses in some cases. And so this is an easy and seamless technology for you to implement without having to, spend hours trying to find or ask your clients for their shipping addresses. So that had to be, I think that's the first thing that I would always recommend to anybody, is make sure that you are very familiar with your customer and their challenges. And then the product or the service kind of solves for that.
And how did you fund the business?
So far, it's been funded through either my investments or through friends and family. So we have raised about $500,000 US for the business so far in the last 3 years. So primarily that's how we've been doing that so far. But now we're looking to actually raise a seed or a pre-seed round as the next kind of iteration of the business so that we can get to the next point in growing it and scaling it.
If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
Yes, I still would go into the gifting industry if I had all the funding in the world. Because I think there's a lot of opportunity for where we are now. Again, if the pandemic never happened, this probably wouldn't even be like a conversation because everyone would probably still be working at the office, and this probably wouldn't be like needed as much. But because the pandemic did happen, and a lot of businesses either went completely remote or just a lot of people are working from home in general. So I think that was there's an opportunity there, and so you kind of have to strike when the iron is hot. But I think I would still, I wouldn't go into the marketing industry if I had all of the capital and funding in the world. And I still kind of find it interesting that people are still like starting up marketing agencies these days. But I definitely would want to build this out still and to support businesses with corporate gifting.
Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
I would say the most stressful time, probably going back to the marketing agency side. I think the gifting platform hasn't been that stressful. I mean, it's still very young and still growing, and so I think there hasn't been that many stressors. It's just more been like, how do I make sure that this thing gets built on time and it's rolled out? But I'd say, I think we all had, as business owners, had these moments where we're like, whoa, I'm not sure if I'm going to make payroll next, week or next month. Especially there's been, certain times in our industry when there have been downturns in the economy, but just downturns in the industry. And so we definitely have experienced those cycles in the past. And so I think that has been a challenging or a low point for us. I'm sure for any business, right? When you're like, how I want to make sure that, that I'm not skimping out on paying my employees. So I'd say the way I think that the way I thought about it is like, yes, this is a phase, and make sure that you're prepared for that phase. And we were prepared for that phase, and we were able to stay afloat. But I think a lot of businesses don't think about that always. They're like, okay, the money's coming. Let's spend it when it's coming. But then when things become challenging, what happens, having some sort of reserve. So making sure that prepared for that. And the other thought that I had is that this is a phase, right? Like we all go through these phases. There's always going to be ups and downs in business. So just make sure that you are prepared, ride out that phase, and on the other end, there will be an uptake, but it's just going to take a little bit of time to get to that point.
What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
That's I think the operation side. I'm definitely not the best. I'm coming from the marketing side. I think I'm pretty good at marketing. I'm pretty decent at sales and having grown, several companies. But I'd say operations has always been my Achilles heel. I have a lot of ideas, but I don't always have like the discipline to implement them. So I always need like like an operations person or a chief operating officer to be close by so that they can help me implement those ideas. Recently hired a chief operating officer for our marketing agency, and that's been very helpful because, like I said, just so many ideas, not disciplined enough to make sure that they come through to fruition. And having like someone who's very disciplined in operations has been super helpful for me. And I think it's like, I don't know if you're familiar with like the entrepreneurial operating system, EOS, like where you have the integrator and you have the visionary. I
Yep.
feel like I'm definitely the visionary, and I always need like that integrator to like make sure that things are getting done.
Yeah, that's from Jenna Wickman's book, Rocket Fuel.
Yeah, for sure.
What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
probably the operations, and building out workflows and making sure that we're tracking everything and making sure that, everything, like, yes, we always need someone to make sure that like the trains are running on time, but I think that's probably the least like fun part. Like I don't really find that very enjoyable. I see the value in it, of course. I understand that we all need to put workflows together to make sure that we're checking things off and that we're, completing our checklists and moving things forward. Absolutely, I definitely see the value, but it's just that it's that putting that together and using up time. I feel like that's always been the for me the least fun part. Maybe for operations people, it's like the fun part, but for me, it's definitely been the least fun part of operating a business. But it's definitely a necessary thing in order to get to the next level.
What do you love most about growing a small business?
I say the excitement, the sales for sure. I like that when you're there and you're kind of and you're talking about what your business does or what the value is, and seeing the on the other side kind of that twinkle in the person's eye. You're like, yes, I this is something that can help them solve their problems. I think maybe not even the sales, but more like the problem solving piece of it. Both on the agency side and on the Gipht side, because when you find that yes, there's a problem and my whatever I'm doing is going to be able to solve that, I think that really is an exciting part for me, solving other people's challenges. Yeah.
What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
For me, it's been like the scarcity abundance mindset. I've had to, in the beginning, I think that's just always kind of been my mindset growing up and being, kind of going through my regular career before I started my business. But I think I really had to kind of come to terms with it and understand like what is keeping me from getting to the next level in my business or growing it or really thinking big. I think just, in the past, kind of my my think natural way of things have been just thinking small, like this is where I am, this is what I'm going to do. I stay in my lane, but so thinking more abundantly, thinking how can I dream bigger or think bigger, to get to that point. So for me, it definitely has been that scarcity to abundance mindset has been very helpful in growth in general.
The number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Resiliency for sure. It's less about being the smartest person in the room. I mean, it's helpful, but it's definitely less about that. It's more about persistence and being resilient. I think where most businesses or business owners fail is that they just, they kind of fall apart in certain points because things get too challenging. But really, if you can overcome those challenging points, that's really and getting to that kind of over that cliff and making sure that you're getting to the other side. That I think is the number one recommendation or habit that I would recommend for business owners, because I found that it's usually that challenging part that kind of slows everything down, and then you're like at a crossroads, like, do I continue with the business or do I go do something else or go back to working as an employee? And I definitely have thought about that myself, not now, but when I first starting out, because you kind of have one foot in, one foot out. So you think about like, well, maybe if this thing doesn't work, maybe I can just go back to, being a regular employee. But once you commit and have that resiliency and say like to yourself, hey, no matter what happens, I'm still going to continue. Like, nothing is going to deter me from getting to the next level or to the next step, even if things get really rough. I think that's very helpful.
One or more of these growth pillars standing in the way of you living the lifestyle you've signed up for? People, strategy, marketing, funding, or systems? We have a free ebook filled with actions and templates on each of these growth pillars. Download for free from our website, growasmallbusiness.com. Now, you've got over 20 team members at the moment across the two businesses, and I'm sure you would have hired a lot more over the years, over the 11 years. Can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
In terms of hiring and just team members, I'd say number one thing is always culture. And I know that, everyone talks about that, but I'd say it is very significant because if you don't have the culture that, or like you don't set the culture for the organization as the leader of the organization, then you have a bunch of different people on, and they might not be the right fit, and they might not be like follow the culture or be in that mindset of the culture. So it is important to set that as I think the number one thing, because yeah, so often then you can find just the wrong fit, or people are going to be coming on your team with the wrong fit. So I'd say always fire fast and hire slow. Make sure that again it's the right fit, but if it's the wrong fit, make sure that this person is no longer on the team, because that I've also experienced can cause a lot of issues or drama, and so you don't want that like person like poisoning the well. So making sure that that person is no longer on the team when that if that does ever start to happen. I hope it doesn't, but we have always probably all have experienced that probably in the past. So um yeah, I think culture and cohesion amongst the team members, and conflict resolution, I think those are all very important when it comes to hiring and having, a good culture in your organization.
What are some of the things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
Sustainable culture. I think number one is always understanding what are your core values as an organization. What is it that you guys what we all value? I mean, they're all they could be all similar, but then everybody else has their own kind of outliers that are important to that particular organization. Like for us, for example, technology, and let's say on both on the gifting platform and on the digital marketing agency side is very important, and it's really the cornerstone for a lot of everything that we do. So like for one of our core values is like being technology oriented or technology driven for all of our team members. And so that is one of our core values. And so when we hire people, we want to make sure like they understand that like technology is a very big piece of what we do. But that might not always be the case for, for like a wealth management firm. Maybe technology is not their number one thing. Maybe, number one thing for them in core values might be customer support or customer service or having a great customer experience. So often I think we'll find similar core values amongst just businesses and small businesses and organizations. But I think it's finding like kind of what differentiates you as an organization, and make sure that like the people that you're bringing into your organization are understanding and seeing those core values, and that's reflected in the culture as well.
So let audience how you've handled balance.
Probably very poorly these days. Right now, we're going through a rebrand for Gipht, and so that's been taking up quite a good chunk of my time. I have found that I most of the time my balance comes at the end of the year during the holiday season when everyone is less, is kind of less busy, and everyone kind of goes back to their families and slows down a little bit. So I'm looking forward to that. Now we're recording at the end of October, so a couple months out, I'm looking forward to having some downtime. It's true I haven't always been the best at taking time off, or just finding balance between work and just personal, I guess. But I think that's something that, of course, I would highly recommend, but I think I'd probably not be the right person to talk about that, as I feel like I'm always just, finding ways on how I can improve businesses.
How much professional development have you invested in yourself?
Oh, a ton. Not so much recently, but I definitely, as I was growing my company, especially in the beginning of the marketing agency, I invested a lot in professional development and personal development. I think a lot of that, when we talked about, the mindset, like that came through some courses there's online courses that I took, and some I guess kind of personal development speakers that I heard that have been really helpful. So that I invested a lot of time to change my mindset, but also a lot of, I'd say, professional development, especially when it comes to digital marketing. It's not something that you can learn in college or at a university, right? Digital marketing kind of all came about in the last 20, to 20 years or so, and it's not even being taught at universities, I don't think, at this point still, or very, very little. So all of that came through my own personal like professional development. I had to, find resources and find courses and find ways on how I can learn more about digital marketing. And so I did a lot of that in the beginning when I first started the agency. So I think that's been super helpful for me to kind of like learn not only the digital marketing side, but also how to run a business, right? I mean, I didn't come from the space of running a business. I was an employee and I came up through, corporate America, if you will. So for me, I had to also learn like, how do you do all of these things, and how do you manage a team, and what it's like to be a good leader, and how do you do your accounting and things like that. So a lot of my own kind of initiative for professional development to make sure that I'm kind of hitting all the notes when it comes to running the business.
Have you had mentors or coaches along the way?
For sure. There's been a number of individuals who have been helpful for me. Both, I'd say I can talk more about Gipht, because I feel like there's certain things that technology I'm familiar with, but definitely not to the point where I can feel comfortable that saying that I can do that. So having a CTO that came on board for the team has been very helpful. I wouldn't say like they're a mentor or something like that, but for growing and building the business. Yeah, but having like advisors who can support me with technology, who can support me with brand and just I guess go-to-market strategy, even though I come from the marketing side. I think having kind of another set of eyes or another set of ears who can provide some feedback and have somebody to bounce ideas off of, I think is really helpful. So yeah, I would highly recommend having mentors or advisors in your organization, because I think that's, we all think we know everything, but that's really not the case. So having people who are smarter than us is always very helpful.
And with different experience and a different network that can be tapped as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Do you have a board of directors or advisors?
Yes, so on the marketing agency side, I do have a strategic advisory board, and these are usually individuals who have run a marketing agency in the past. So that's been very helpful to understand like kind of their entire journey, right from the beginning, kind of similar to where I started. How did they start their agency? How did they grow it? And then how did they exit the agency? That's been very helpful to understand kind of the nuances and the specifics of it. And same thing on the on Gipht for the gifting platform. Also having I wouldn't say it's a board of advisors, but advisors. This is probably how I would call them. So again, people who have worked or have experience in the gifting, corporate gifting industry has been very helpful to understand kind of what our competitors doing, bigger competitors than us, and how did they do marketing? How did they do sales? How did they do customer engagement or customer support? Has been helpful to understand, what are the different ways that we can, let's say, emulate that, but maybe learn some lessons or understand competitors so that we can also do a better job of all of those things for our business.
How often does the board of advisors meet in both businesses? Is it monthly or quarterly?
So for the marketing agency, we meet monthly. For Gipht, it's actually weekly, because we, especially with the rebrand, it's been weekly because we've been trying to really understand how do we create a brand that resonates with our audience and our target market. So that's been, and we did, since we're almost finishing up with the rebrand, there's been a lot of conversations about that. So very helpful, but also very time consuming, but also, been great to have others who can provide support in specific areas like branding.
And did you say at the start that Gipht is now launched in New Zealand? Is that right?
Yes. So we are pretty much launched across the world, but we have, since we have merchant partners, it depends on where the merchants are. And so we do have one gifting merchant in New Zealand who primarily, I think, does business in New Zealand. For the most part, otherwise it's in the US, but we do have some merchant partners, one in the UK and one in, I think, Finland. And so we haven't really explored that much with going beyond the US. I mean, we do have a few, but they just kind of came to us by chance. Weren't really looking to expand internationally, but yeah, it's wherever the merchant ships is wherever our technology can also work. So yes, so New Zealand is one of them.
Right, Jim, we're on to our final five questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
I would say probably going back to operations again. Yeah, making sure that your processes are in place, because I feel like that's been definitely a challenging part for me.
Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
So there's someone that I follow quite a bit. And we'll talk about the podcast question, but he also has a podcast, and he has a book called Abundance. It's somebody named Peter Diamandis, and he talks a lot about, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he talks a lot about AI and technology and longevity, kind of the big points of like where he's seeing, or like where I think also we're heading in terms of kind of singularity and as a society, or as I guess a species. So the book Abundance is all about kind of thinking about what is the positive side of things. We all think like all we see in the news is like the negative side of things, but really there's a lot of positivity going on in terms of improving poverty, or clean air, or clean water, and so many things. Technology that is helping us and supporting us as a species. So I would definitely recommend the book Abundance by Peter Diamandis.
And any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development? Obviously, you'd recommend his podcast as well.
Yes, his podcast is called Moonshots. And he has very often, most of them are guests, I'd say, yeah, a lot of times. And they're usually at the cutting edge of a specific industry. So that could be technology, or AI, or longevity, or sending people into space. So great kind of futuristic ideas that I think are very close to, maybe not right now, but I think are very close to just where we will be in problem solving for us as humans.
One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
Probably a project management tool. Going back to operations, it's been, again, not very exciting for me, but very helpful for a business, especially if you're looking to scale a business, right? We all think it's always sales, and it is, of course, part and parcel sales and marketing. But at the same time, if you don't have the infrastructure in place for processes and making sure that like you're delivering what you say, let's say, to a client, and that comes from operations and, let's say, project management, then the sales you're definitely not gonna help you win clients, because you can't deliver what you're saying to the client. So project management tool.
So what do you use? Go high level?
Trello.
Trello. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we use Trello for our project management tool, and I found it to be extremely helpful. We started using it about, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, and then we kind of had a trough where we didn't use it as much, and then we had our operations COO, Chief Operating Officer, start us back up again, and like everything now is on Trello. So I think it's been very helpful to get the whole team involved.
I think the NASDAQ listed Australian company Atlassian bought Trello a few years ago, didn't they?
Yes, yeah, it's now an Atlassian company. Yeah.
Yeah. Finally, my favorite question. What would you tell yourself on day one of starting out 11 years ago?
I probably wouldn't say anything, because I always kind of think about this as like, if I knew what I know now about starting a business, I probably would have never started a business. I think being naive about starting a business is actually the way to start a business, because then you're not like, as yes, you're, of course, like, you have fear and you're scared of starting a business, but I think had I known what I know now, I probably would have never done it. So I think it's like this weird kind of dichotomy where you're like, I probably wouldn't say anything. I'd be like, yeah, just do what you're doing. learn as much as you can, and which is what I did. But I probably wouldn't tell them all the scary things. I wouldn't tell myself the scary things.
Thanks so much for your time today, Jean. I really enjoyed our chat. Congratulations on the growth of both businesses, starting your marketing agency in 2013 on your own, getting that up to now around 20 team members, and in 2021 starting Gipht, which is, I think, is a terrific service to help businesses send gifts to other businesses or suppliers without having their address, and up to around 3 team members now and growing quite quickly. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yes, it's been great. Really appreciate you having me on the show, and I hope that was helpful for your audiences.
That's it. Thanks for listening. Please leave a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. It means more small business owners will find our cast and help people with their business growth journey.